It may not look like it, but it's about 35 degrees outside, and I'm in Florida. Palm trees, blue skies, and it's still cold. So yeah, I'm in Florida. It's the day after Christmas today. My dad and I took a trip for a couple of days down here. It's cold, really cold. The coldest it's been this year. The lows in Georgia were in the teens, and it's getting down close to freezing almost all the way as far south as the Florida Everglades. So could be a kind of weird trip. I'm hoping that we'll be able to turn out some stuff regardless. I think we'll be able to see at least some stuff of interest. We might not see our big targets, but it should be interesting either way. I don't get down this way very often, and it's been years. Definitely haven't made any YouTube videos from down this far south, so it's gonna be fun. Looking forward to it. Today is our first day. We'll be here for a couple of days, hoping to get a couple of videos out of this, and kind of round out 2020 with this trip. So we're gonna hit it today. We're gonna be hitting some upland stuff today, hiking around, flipping trash, and big target's a worm lizard. I really want to see one of those. I haven't seen one. I've looked really hard for worm lizards in the past and haven't had any luck. Supposedly they like the cold weather though, so hopefully we'll have luck today. And if not, maybe we'll see something else. Take 2 steps out of the car and Dad flips something. What is that? Yeah, a weird looking anole though. First herp of the trip, little green anole. Anyways, this region has an abundance of stuff to flip. Brought my rake. I'm gonna rake around in the sand a little bit. Hope to kick up a worm lizard either undercover or in the leaf litter. We'll see. And here is something that you guys saw pretty recently, and the first of, and certainly not the last invasive species we'll see this weekend. This is a greenhouse frog. We saw him in Louisiana. We've got him in Georgia. But first one on the trip. All right, Dad just flipped the first snake of the day, and it is a beautiful little Tantilla relicta, the Florida crown snake. Super vibrant little guy. Look at that. Pretty common out here. I've seen a couple of them here over the years, but this is definitely the nicest looking one. Look at that guy. Look for a little piece of carpet. All right, Central Florida crown snake, first snake of the trip. Hopefully not the last. Really crazy looking little snake though. Beautiful. Not a bad way to start off the trip snake-wise. We're just gonna put this guy back under his little piece of carpet and keep flipping. Not what we're looking for, but definitely welcome. All right, guys, this next find of the day is, in my opinion, one of the coolest looking animals we have here in the United States. Definitely one of the coolest lizards. This is the Florida sand skink. These guys are a super weird, almost completely legless skink. If you look on his back hind leg right there, you can see he's got 2 tiny legs on the back, no legs on the front. This crazy snow white coloration, camouflaged with the sand. These guys are perfectly adapted to swim through this sugar sand, much like the Tantilla that we found earlier. Not what we're looking for once again, but something I always look forward to seeing when I'm in this area. Super unique little lizards. And we might see another one or two. They're fairly common in this area, so we might see a couple more. But this is one of the biggest and prettiest I've seen. You can see for scale next to my hand. And this is a full-grown adult. They don't get much bigger than this. These guys do superficially kind of resemble the worm lizards, but they are a type of skink related to mole skinks and all those other guys. And like I said, they do have these weird-looking back legs. They're vestigial legs, which means they don't really serve a purpose anymore. Historically, these guys would have had legs and been part of the greater skink lineages that we know today. They're so well adapted at moving through this sand, it's crazy. But I'm just going to let him go back under his board, and we're going to keep flipping. All right, guys, next snake of the day is our first invasive snake of the trip. This is a Brahminy blind snake. They're a really tiny little flower pot hitchhiker that's kind of colonized a lot of the southern U.S. We don't have them at least very common in Georgia yet, but they are really common in Florida, and you get them in Texas too. Almost completely indistinguishable from an earthworm. They look even more like an earthworm than the native blind snakes we have in Texas. And this one's huge. I've never seen one this big before. But much like the Tantilla and the sand skink, little tiny eyeballs, super streamlined body for burrowing in the soil. So Pretty neat. These guys are non-native, but they are kind of benign. They don't really compete with anything here. They eat ants and termites and all that stuff, so. Just rake this little guy up. That is a baby sand skink. He's a little bit smaller than that first one. Anyways, like I said, they're pretty common here, so probably see a couple more. I'm just gonna let him slide back into the sand and keep hitting it. Awesome. All right, guys, next find of the day was two of these guys. This is a blue-tailed mole skink. Flipped two of them right next to each other. One of them got away, but this guy is beautiful. His tail quickly transitions from that pinkish coloration into blue. We've seen a couple of different subspecies of mole skink in my videos over the years, but I think this is the first blue-tailed that I've gotten to show in a video. Anyways, these guys are also pretty common here. Very similar looking to the sand skink, but they actually have real legs and a little bit more color on them. But definitely another interesting endemic to the Central Florida sand ridges. I'm just gonna leave this guy back to his business and keep looking for worm lizards. Pretty soon here, we're probably gonna call it on the search for worm lizards and head to a different area in hopes of turning up some snakes today. But I'm gonna give it a little bit more work here and then we're gonna move on. Here's another pretty nifty invasive gecko. I think this is not any of the ones that we've seen in my videos before. I think this is a they're known as wood slave geckos. They're a little bit larger than Mediterranean and the ones we see in Louisiana. Kind of neat. He was just using this little board pile right here. Really big, pretty cool looking eyes. Nifty, but unfortunate, invasive. All right, guys, just pulled back some pine straw and spotted this guy. It's another little sand skink. The third one of these for the day. Anyways, I'm just gonna let him bury back in the sand. You can see his tail sticking out right there. Awesome. So that last sand skink was right over there, raked right here. And there's another one somewhere in this little block of sand. There he is. You can see his head. See, he's gonna work his way out of my hand here, back into the sand. Go on. There you go. There he goes. That's so cool how they disappear like that. All right, guys, we're probably about to move to a different area, but I figured I'd show you one of these. These are probably the most common invasive we see in Florida, brown anoles. They're absolutely everywhere in South Florida, but pretty non-native, and unfortunately these guys do compete with the native green anoles and have actually made it to where it's really hard to find green anoles in some parts of South Florida. And it's because these guys are everywhere out competing them. So one of the more detrimental invasives, unfortunately, because they are pretty, but figured I'd show this guy to you. And one of those little scraps of junk right there turned up our next snake of the day, the ever-present southern black racer. We're actually hopefully going to get to see some Everglades racers this weekend, but plenty of racers to be seen whenever you're in Florida, usually. So it feels like it's actually been a minute since I've seen a racer because we've had such a cold winter. I haven't really been finding these guys up by me recently, so kind of cool. We're gonna put him back under his junk. So I just flipped this dinky little tarp on the side of this canal, and it was like the first thing we found, and underneath it is my lifer Florida king snake. My first ever true Florida king snake. Holy crap, there's another one over here that we're flipping. Ow, he's biting me. So this was probably the #1 thing I wanted to find on this trip. I've seen Brooks king snakes, I've seen Eastern king snakes, but this is kind of like the intermediate between the two. Technically they're all Eastern king snakes now, but this is the Floridana, true Floridana, Florida king snake. 60 degrees, ow, 30 something last night. The first decent piece of cover we found after getting into this region. Earlier we were in a pretty different region of Florida. It's a lot higher, a lot drier, a lot sandier. Now we're in this kind of marshy agricultural region, heavily agriculture. And there we go. I walked up to this thing. I really wasn't even expecting really anything to be under it because it was so just kind of unsuspecting looking. The really sad part about this snake is, unfortunately for Florida king snakes, this is about all they have left. The Brooks phase that lives in the Everglades has plenty of protected habitat, but true Florida king snakes, are probably one of the most at-risk Lamprepeltis in the U.S. I mean, they really don't have much habitat left. They've mysteriously disappeared from a lot of their historic range, almost all of it, with the exception of a few areas. And this is one of them. And I feel pretty fortunate to have gotten this guy. I've tried for these guys multiple times and failed. And things just came together today, I guess. But what an awesome way to kind of end the day, the first day of the trip. Lifer, Floridana, Florida king snake. And possibly my last Lamprepeltis of the year. We're gonna go look for Brooks Kings tomorrow. I really wish it would stop biting me. So we're gonna go look for Brooks Kings tomorrow, and there's always a chance we could turn up another one of these guys today. We're gonna hit a couple more spots while we make our way towards where we're staying tonight. But I mean, my day and trip is made. This was the big thing I wanted to see. Well, I'm gonna put this snake back under her tarp and wish her the best. It is a young female, so the snake will be ready to breed in a year or two. It's a pretty young snake. These guys grow fast, but have to be a reasonable size to be able to actually reproduce. This is probably a fourth of the potential size the snake could reach. They're big subspecies of king snake. Pretty commonly can exceed 6 foot. So anyways, really awesome way to kind of start the trip and end the first day. I couldn't have asked for a better looking specimen. These snakes can be one of the more unattractive subspecies of king snake, but this one is actually a really good looking snake. Beautiful orange undertones and nice contrast. So I'm gonna put her back under her tarp, and we're probably gonna call it a day. We're gonna flip a little bit more. I mean, we still got probably an hour or two of good light left, so if we see anything else, you guys will know. All right. What an awesome looking king snake. Lifer king snake for me. Gotten a couple of those this year, but this one is probably the lowest hanging fruit. Okay. Jeez, this snake is bitey. She looks good in the light, in the sunlight too. Awesome. Anyways, I could talk about this snake all day, but it speaks for itself. Beautiful Florida king snake. You guys know how I feel about king snakes, unless they're acting like this. All right, back to your tarp. Awesome, awesome. All right, Lifer Florida king snake, back to your sunny tarp on the side of the ditch. So cool. Let's see where she goes. Straight into it. But there are bees. We found a board on the side of this beautiful canal. Someone did a very good job of hiding it, but or maybe it's coincidental. Oh, looks decent. So since we know there's snakes here, I'm gonna attempt to get a flip clip of something. There's another little sign here, nothing under it. Shingles, look at brown anole. A couple of them. Those are beautiful little lizards. I'm sure the king snakes eat those. We got a nice little stack of boards here. They're kind of particle boards, crappy boards, but ANOLE. Oh my god, a cane toad. This guy is a cane toad, one of the most successful and horrifically damaging invasive species in the world. These guys, especially for reptiles and amphibians, these guys are among the worst. Super detrimental for predators. They're super toxic. If something eats this guy, it could kill it. Probably just about anything can be killed by eating these. And they get huge, so they also eat lots of other things like native toads and other native frogs and stuff. So super detrimental. This is one of the species that if you see it, it is definitely best to euthanize. Not a good invasive species at all. That being said, they're here to stay for the most part. Unfortunately, they are really cool animals, as harmful as they can be to the native ecosystem. And really just an unfortunate situation here in South Florida with all these invasive species that are so cool, but are at the same time so bad for the native wildlife. Really tragic. It's getting pretty late in the day, but we have a good looking spot right here that we're gonna check. There's cactus. I don't know what he's doing here. body.